Hello and welcome to another episode of Once Upon a Time in Some Guy's Parents' House. I am Some Guy, this is my parents' house, and with me are my friends Rob and Jules. Gentlemen, how are you today?
I'm fine. I'm good.
That's you talking, isn't it, Rob?
That's correct, Jules.
And this is me, Jules.
And
right, you got that, listeners? You got that? That's our voices.
By the way,
Yes,
there is nothing wrong with living in your parents' house, as this today's film is going to tell us.
That's true. Unless you're fabricating the entire thing.
Today, we are talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. No, we're not. We're talking about Joker. Gentlemen, that film that was made by Todd Phillips, who was previously...
renowned artistic director Todd Phillips.
Gritty filmmaker.
Who I was
fresh
amazed
from the Hangover trilogy.
Who I was amazed to discover I'd accidentally seen all of his films.
Every single one?
Yeah.
Have you seen Due Date?
No, I have not seen all of his films.
You have not seen all of his films?
Isn't that his student film
Fake
or
news.
something?
No, that's right in the middle of the Hangover trilogy, I think.
No, I've definitely not seen that then.
I also haven't seen War Dogs.
I also haven't seen Fitzcarraldo.
Todd Phillips Fitzcarraldo.
Yeah.
With,
I just thought we were naming things we hadn't seen.
Todd Phillips Scaraldo.
So yes, this film was made by Todd Phillips, who does appear to be a strange choice for the movie. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, fresh from playing Jesus.
What film was he in?
Mary Magdalene.
And what film was he in?
What you mean when he was playing Jesus,
playing
just
Jesus.
on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Robert De Niro is also in it, as is Francis Conroy and Zazie Beetz. Great name. The film is about the Joker. It's an origin story for that famous Batman villain, where Joaquin Phoenix plays a mentally very disturbed man living with his mother in a very cruel Gotham City. Is it even called Gotham? I mean, it is.
They do reference
New York City.
Yeah.
I think it's a hodgepodge of different built-up places in the 70s.
Different Scorsese interpretations of New York.
Yeah.
Does it surprise you to learn that Todd Phillips is from New York and grew up in New York in the 1970s?
Oh my god! Next you're going to tell me he saw Taxi Driver.
There's some allusion to Ghostbusters 2 here.
You mean Ghostbusters 1?
No, the idea that New York has a lot of hate and anger in it, and it manifests itself in this mood line. Well, it doesn't actually. The mood line becoming angry and taking in all these emotions. And
you're right, Rob.
I suppose
Joker
it's
is
another
mood
film
line.
about New Yorkers being angry.
It's got to be actually that's a point, because if we are talking from the perspective of Todd Phillips coming through New York, he has grown up in. I mean, I haven't been giving him his dues. I've just been saying, we just nicked Scorsese's themes and his tone because he loved those movies. But if he's grown up in New York, he's grown up in an environment where everyone's a massive arsehole to one another.
So, what did you think of Joker?
It's hilarious.
I was speaking to a friend of mine who it affected him somehow mentally, or he couldn't get into it and he didn't like the characters and so on. But I think that's the point of it. I think it's a bit like a Taxi Driver or an American Psycho. It's a tragedy. So as a tragedy, I think it's a pretty decent film.
Yeah, I mean, the film has taken a lot of heat, right? I mean, it's taking a lot of heat for a couple of things. There's the choice of the Gary Glitter song, which is sort of in a subcategory of its own, which it's getting a lot of grief for.
He got heat just for choosing that extremely famous Gary Glitter song that most people don't even realise is Gary Glitter.
Gary Glitter. Yeah, that was when I heard about the Joker controversy. That was the first thing I heard about, and then I sort of read deeper into it and read all of this. Oh, this is going to incite incels to go and kill people. There's a couple of elements of the film. It's very violent, and it places you in the shoes of a very mentally disturbed person and asks you to see the world somewhat from his perspective. And he in the film becomes the symbol of a populist uprising against the rich and comes to symbolise general anger against the establishment, incites a lot of rioting in the city. Do you think it's fair, the hate the film is getting from a lot of commentators who are saying this is an irresponsible film?
See, this is where I wonder, but I would argue there's no such thing as an irresponsible film. I would argue film should be allowed to do within, I wouldn't say there's even within reason. Art should exist for art's sake to say whatever it can or wants to do. And it more comes down to the argument that I don't think you should be putting I don't want to say guidelines, I'm trying to think of the word. You don't want to be putting down...
Censorship.
Any form of censorship in any way on art. I mean, obviously you can censor it in terms of when you're sending that to a mass audience or what you're projecting for what you want in terms of who can see it and when. But for just art for art's sake, as a piece of created media, we shouldn't be able to say, well, you shouldn't create this because it could incite this. Because I think it creates a dangerous precedent for what else could something else. It creates a slippery slope, in my opinion, and I don't feel art should be censored.
I think that, obviously art doesn't exist in a vacuum, unless you some artists do sort of squirrel themselves away and keep themselves out of the politics or news and don't really let that affect them. Maybe they can't avoid it, but then it becomes more relevant when a film is released, that sort of thing. I mean, if the film is saying anything, it seems like it's about a man the system has failed him. But also, all of the other characters in the film they're not necessarily all horrible, but a lot of them are dismissive of
It's
him.
a very grim film in that regard.
And is that all in his head? Because there is a moment in the film which is kind of a Sixth Sense kind of moment. We realise what we're seeing isn't necessarily the whole picture, and so how much of that is just his interpretation because of his mental illness?
I feel we're meant to take most of the scenes at face value. I agree. There's his interactions with Zazie Beetz' character is clearly revealed to us to have been largely fabricated by him.
Yes,
but I think when it comes, say, to his interactions with his colleagues, with his boss, with his mother, I think we're meant to take all of those scenes, for example, as they stood.
When he gets the information with regards to his mother, there is a kind of flashback to his mother as a young woman being interrogated. At that point, we see Arthur in the background of the flashback, once suggesting, this is his take on the notes, so we don't actually have to have it. It's quite a quick way of establishing that he doesn't believe what the notes are saying, and he also suggests, though, that maybe this is just his interpretation and not necessarily what happened.
I guess so. I took it more from an accusatory. He's there as another accuser. I took it as.
But he came to that conclusion from the inverse information because the documents merely say the lie.
I mean, I would agree with you, Rob. In fact, if anything, I'd say I think the whole film is quite coloured by his perspective. All the scenes are, because he is. I mean, not only is he protagonist, but every single scene in the film is from his perspective emotionally. And while there are obviously large beats that are very different from his perspective to what's reality, like with the whole thing where he imagines, what's the actress's name again?
Zazie Beetz.
Zazie Beetz. That is a wonderful name.
It's great, isn't it?
Where he imagines their relationship. But I feel like every single scene in the film, you can't be entirely sure if maybe even Gotham isn't as 100% grim as it is if everyone is going from, well, maybe it is like his perspective is slightly attuning it, so they're slightly more accusatory, they're slightly more short with him, and because every single scene is from his perspective.
But we're seeing, we're seeing it from the bottom, aren't we? We're seeing Gotham from the perspective of someone who has nothing really, and who is being systematically ignored. His mental health services are withdrawn from him. He has no real job prospects and no real social prospects because he, has this ridiculous condition where whenever he's nervous, it seems whenever he's nervous socially in any way, he just maniacally laughs. It's going to be a difficult thing to get past, isn't it?
It actually says intentionally in the script that it says that he's got different types of laughs depending on whether one's meant to be like the nervous laugh that you can't control. One is one that's put on. Okay. And I think it was something I read about how originally they were talking. Todd Phillips was talking to Joaquin Phoenix about it, and they were trying to work out what laugh would be what, how many he should have. I think it went to 4 at one point, but it never goes to exact detail which one he's putting on, but just that he does have. So there is a level of potential fabrication in the laugh.
When he feels he's expected to laugh, he is clearly putting it on. Like when one of his colleagues mocks the dwarf character, and again we get this sort of ridiculously over the top laugh from him.
There were dwarf jokes in it, and that to me felt like the one note of the film where it felt kind of off.
But do you There are moments where characters that I think we're meant to find unsavoury make jokes about the dwarf, and then there's the moment that the film maybe makes us sets the humour up, which is where he's trying to escape
the door. That's what I mean.
Find the latch.
Yeah,
and that's
making the audience laugh at it.
It adds an absurd moment to a really threatening situation. I don't know. I can understand seeing that from both
See, to me, that felt like the sort of joke I'd expect in The Hangover, where they'll be making jokes about Chinese men having small penises. And you're sitting there thinking, well, that's not.
It's funny, like, I would never bring this film up into this conversation if I hadn't watched it yesterday morning, and I was still reflecting on Joker. But yesterday morning I watched the film Earthquake from 1974. In this film, during the major earthquake scene in the film Earthquake, there's a bit where lots of people. It's called Earthquake, and in the film Earthquake,
what's it about?
there are several earthquakes, and during the third earthquake of all of the earthquakes in the film called Earthquake, the big earthquake, the earthquake that kills loads of people, there's a bit where there's this woman, lots of people are running through the streets and sort of stuff's tumbling down, and this woman gets hit by this massive plate of glass, and that's it's nasty enough. She's just a complete randomer. She's never seen it before. She's a middle-aged woman, and then she gets up and she staggers towards the camera with like loads of shards of glass sticking out of her face and blood running down her face, screaming. And I laughed because I thought I just imagined the directors setting this shot up, like putting it all together and being like, oh good, we've got, yes, you're going to play the woman with glass in her face. What I want you to do is when the makeup's finished, you've got to stagger towards the screen and and that's gratuitous as shit.
Yeah.
So that's rubbish violence. I mean, we really didn't need that. I got the message. The earthquake's killing loads of people. Having the plate glass fall on this woman is unfortunate enough, but having her stagger straight towards camera, and that's gratuitous violence. That's a PG.
It's like,
that
what is it?
Show on a Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m.
Joker, I agree, it isn't gratuitous because all the moments have other reasons for existing. They have reasons to exist as character, for part of the story, and just his general arc needs those moments to work.
They push the plot forward,
exactly.
and they're deserved.
They feel earned.
It works, I think.
Do you feel it's cathartic when he resurrects into Joker?
I think the film does have a weird dichotomy by what it's trying to do, as in it very much in one hand tries to lift up this figure of saying by having us empathise with him, but also saying his actions are justified and all this stuff, and then in the other hand saying, no, you should feel wrong for feeling this way because he represents all these terrible, horrible values. When they lift him up, I felt an element of catharsis in these moments, but it's almost like the film pulls you in and then pushes you away at the same time by saying, no, bad, it's like hitting you with a newspaper in the cinema.
Yeah, in one way it's escapist.
And I don't like that.
But you couldn't say that the suffocation scene is escapist unless you're a real psychopath.
I felt empathisable catharsis, but I didn't feel sympathy. This is the this is the trick. It's empathy, not sympathy. I don't agree with him suffocating his mother, obviously, but I totally see why he's doing it.
But also,
sympathy is not the same as agreeing with the character.
Empathy does not mean condonement. It just means understanding from somebody else's perspective.
I think there are many moments. I think there are many moments of relief in it because you get a scene like we just mentioned, and then you have a sequence where we're laughing at him. He does the scene which is much like in King of Comedy, where Pupkin's character has all these cardboard cutouts of all the audience in his basement, and he pretends to be on a chat show. Similarly, in this. Arthur is he's preparing for his show.
See, this is
and we are laughing at him then.
This is a different thing, but I'd say moments like that kind of took me out of the movie.
Well, because of the obvious reference?
Because there were such obvious references. It wasn't like with Tarantino where the references sort of form his voice and he creates something somewhat newish with them. With this, it felt like moments like that from King Comedy and like when they put their guns to their head, like in Taxi Driver, and do the fake gunshot thing. Things like that took me out because it made me feel very much like, I'm watching a film that is tonally trying to reference something of the same tone and the same beats. Like, it's only being played for comedy because it's referencing King of Comedy, and that moment of that is funny.
I think that scene you could still find funny, probably more so if you hadn't watched King of Comedy.
Certainly.
But I'm thinking you're relieved at least that the film isn't a straight up King of Comedy rip, because when I heard that there was going to be an allusion to that, I mean, I thought maybe he wants to get on stage at any cost, and that really isn't.
King of Comedy is my.
King of Comedy is.
I mean, also King of Comedy is my favourite Scorsese film. I absolutely love it.
Yes, me too.
Yes, it's amazing. It is absolute masterpiece. And when
at the moment, mine's probably something like Cape Fear because I'm a heathen.
That is an excellent. I love Cape Fear. That is great. It's silly,
more
fun.
problematic than this film, I would say.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, Jesus,
certainly.
that is much more.
But I like that film as well.
It really was as one for one as I want to do 1980s Martin Scorsese, 1970s I suppose, Martin Scorsese film.
1981, I think, is kind of there isn't an established timeline, you know, an exact date. But I think the clues lead towards 1981.
I did have
is that where it's meant to be set?
I know.
Well,
I
if you
know
look at
this.
the vehicles and certain
70s.
things.
Okay.
I have an
Well,
exact
late
date.
70s, early 80s is
Right.
kind of.
I do have an exact date because it's in the script.
Oh, really? That's
All right,
awesome.
I'll see if I can pull it up.
I'll be impressed if you're right, Rob.
I think you
Well,
might.
I must have looked it up somewhere. But no, it's interesting because I thought for a moment that they'd shot it on film. They haven't, but they did do things like they shot the titles on film.
What the
Just the
the
word Joker.
overlaid
Just the word Joker.
in the end, I assume.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
Vanity Fair video on
That's
YouTube.
right, 'cause it does have a very old-fashioned credits, doesn't it? A font for the credits, like
You've done
the
a bit-
end, and
Yeah.
it's like written like a classic, like you would see in a classic film.
The other thing on that Vanity Fair video that you mentioned is they did use a bit of CGI. They just filled in any gap of sky or anything with more buildings
Oh,
to
really?
try and make everything really feel oppressive and
Yeah.
claustrophobic.
Was
Like,
it
there's
filmed
no
in
escape.
All right, I have the first page of the script here. Well, before the first page.
Okay.
I'm just going to read one little
1959.
bit here. Yeah. We got to go back to 1985. Although it is never mentioned in the film, this story takes place in the past. Let's call it 1981.
Yes.
To follow on the Scorsese piece, do you know who they originally had in mind to play Joker?
Martin Scorsese.
Leo.
Leo, yeah.
Oh, good old Leo.
Leo. And I think it was budget, really. I think it was they just wanted to make a lower budget film, and Joaquin Phoenix has been doing all of these, you know, these really intensive roles, but at a low budget films in the last 5-6 years.
What he says, I think I remember reading something about ever since he basically told the Academy Awards, effectively told them they were all up their own arses,
yeah,
and stopped himself from ever being in the running for
was
an
that for
Academy
Walk the
Awards.
Line? Was that when he was up for
I
Johnny
think it
Cash?
might have been, yeah. I think it might have been that. He basically said, "I'm just going to do these smaller art films and where I can do character pieces now."
God
And
bless
that's it.
you,
And
Joaquin.
God bless him. Because
We salute you.
one thing I will say about this film is, I mean, I didn't think the writing was particularly great, but my God, did he elevate it with his performances?
Yeah,
his
it's brilliant,
performances.
wasn't it?
I can imagine there's a lot of improvisation.
I'm reading the script, and it's weirdly not. A lot of the
Okay.
lines are actually he's just him delivering them so well.
I mean, the tear, for example, the beginning is all whack in it.
It's all in the script.
Oh, according to Tom Phillips on the Vanity Fair,
Really?
lies to me. Well, that solitary tear they caught wasn't sort of pre-prepared. Supposedly, they
He was just punching himself in the gut before the.
Aren't we missing the kind of the obvious political element, which is just the 1% of this film?
Yes.
Like the Waynes are actually presented as really horrible as well.
Oh yeah.
So-
or
Thomas
is
Wayne,
that the Arthur's point of view?
But in everything you've done, we've never had something where we've really seen Thomas Wayne from another perspective when he was alive.
Yes.
But I mean,
We're
we're
taking-
taking it as read that Thomas
Yes.
Wayne covered up an illegitimate baby. There.
No, we
Yeah,
don't know.
I didn't.
I
I,
don't
I,
know.
Are you
thought,
gonna
I thought
let
it was
that-
ambiguous.
No, I thought it was
Ah,
very
yeah.
ambiguous.
So
I thought
what-
it was
what-
ambiguous.
Whether or not his mother actually had an affair with John Wayne, Thomas Wayne.
John Wayne. I think you better give me that baby.
Not to be confused with John Payne.
John Payne.
John Payne.
From
Silverload.
Silverload, which was a load of
Which was
something or other.
That was. I'll have you know that's John Payne's 7th best western.
50s Western. I kind of imagine the film in another version. Maybe it is in the script, since you've read that now, Jules, or at least skimmed it. I can imagine the film without the sequence which reveals points at which Zazie Beetz is not in the scene.
That's good.
All right, because that seems like a kind of hand-holding exercise.
Yeah,
because
that's
we get the idea.
That is a breach of the 2 + 2 = 5 rule, which was Billy Wilder, I think.
They shot it,
Yeah.
obviously, maybe with the understanding of,
Yeah.
we better do this. Since she's not here,
Yeah.
every time they shot the scene, they probably felt, let's do a shot, they're not here.
It's,
just for coverage. And then late, it does
It
seem
treats
like...
the audience like they're an idiot.
Yeah,
and
and
I hate
I
that.
thought so.
It
So-
skips over
Also,
it quite quickly, so
it
it
hap-
suggests that the editor didn't really want to...
But more than that, I'd say,
have to
because
put it in.
it does even more of the pacing, because there's a good 5-10 seconds before it then does the flash to show that it's been fabricated.
It was a shame. I
Yeah.
thought, oh, yeah.
It was the one moment in that where it just...
An epilogue too many at the end, do you think?
I think the ending was the only point where I thought, okay, this is where they're obviously trying to connect this character to more like what we might have seen the Joker do in other films, where he's actually the Joker.
Usually you don't have a backstory for Joker.
No, that's what's interesting
In the
about it.
Killing Joke, you have a few possible backstories that may all be sort of fictitious. And equally in Heath Ledger's portrayal in The Dark Knight, he suggests different ways how he gets the scar. So these kind of possible blurry backgrounds.
Well, they did an interesting
backstory.
thing in Gotham, the TV show, because that worked with the idea that... Because they had the Joker come into it in that, as the character is created. You know his backstory, because it's all the young villains. but they go sort of with the idea to some extent of him starting a movement, and then you think, oh well, maybe he's not the Joker. Maybe it's one of these people who is inspired by him and his not only just his methodology but his values in the world. And it starts to have a lot of overlap with this film, where I started to think, maybe, is this really a Joker origin film? I mean, could it be just the Joker mythos origin?
Yes, I mean, you could have ended it, for example, on the assassination of Bruce's parents. But I was going to suggest that it's interesting. You often don't need a backstory for Joker, and I feel like this film is a backstory that doesn't need a follow-on.
It also does a double backstory.
It's like the inverse of it.
It does a weird double backstory, because I know that the original Batman, with Michael Keaton, that got a lot of flack from the comic book fans because it made the Joker be the one who kills Thomas.
Jack Napier.
Yes.
Well, they make the Joker Jack Napier, who is the person who killed...
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, who kills Bruce's parents.
Thomas Wayne, and whoever her name is.
And I know that got a lot of flack. And this is weird, because in a way it's now saying, yes, he did kill him, but it is off...
Well, no, he didn't kill him, did he? I mean,
I'm saying this film, it's like he's killed because of the movement that...
Sure.
The Joker starts, because it's so
maybe
it's so much.
I mean, he's pro-chaos anyway, so he doesn't care.
But it's like you can argue that he is responsible in an offhand way for the murder of those parents, and if that riot had not occurred. That's what I'm saying.
Is it cyclical though? Is Wayne is the Joker a product of Wayne? And then
I don't like the way that it's one of the things I don't like the way the film. That end of the film where it just seems like it is slotting in that DC mythos stuff, and it feels like I won't say it feels like a square peg in a round hole, but it doesn't feel quite as tight as the rest of the film.
The Wayne murder was really unnecessary. I thought, and I couldn't believe they actually showed it. I thought, at least, please, let's just see them go into the alley and somebody follow in.
That would have been enough.
But then we even got pearls again.
I just said that Joel said the 15th time we've seen pearls scattered on the floor.
And I thought, come on, we all know what's happening. Like, all right, like we didn't need that. This isn't about Bruce Wayne.
What would be a subtle way of doing it? Just have them coming out of the cinema and then
go into the alley, and then the guy follow them in, and then pan away to the next. Move on to what the shot's really about, which is like the riot going on over here. That would have been much better.
Even then, I hate
come on,
that.
like 90% of the audience would get it, and the other 10% don't give a shit.
And we forget that it is a comic book film because it's a little bit more serious, even more so than the Nolan films with their masks and so on. But the part at the end is almost a bit Army of Darkness or something. Everyone's sort of lifting them up and cheering, and you think like that would that happen so quickly in real life?
I guess so. I mean, that for me, I thought was trying to evoke Dark Knight, because obviously there's the bit in Dark Knight where he escapes and he's driving in the police car and he's head out the window and he's that's his moment of freedom. And in here, he's in the police car again, being driven, but he almost is free because the city around him is now. Is not this oppressive place. It's been undone by this riot. So it's almost like a victory lap through what he's achieved. And again, he's in the police car. I thought that was one of the only really overt reference to Dark Knight Joker.
Interesting.
That totally went over my head. But you're right. That does ring true in terms of an image.
I mean, I think going back to that Wayne thing, I found it. I know they kind of wanted to slot it in. And I know maybe that it's not really obvious the city's going to turn into a riot, but it seemed a bit funny that they would basically take their son to the cinema, like during a mass riot. Like,
quick, let's go down this dark alley near the
I
mass
know,
riot.
right? I mean, surely by the time they leave the cinema, they realise that things are probably going... Like, I mean, normally it's just some night. It's just
why
some
don't they
night
get their driver to pick them up outside the cinema?
It's just incongruous that this family would just be walking down the alley after going to the cinema during this city.
What are you saying, Mike? Are you saying they're asking
that it was forced in? No, that they were wedging in these. Look, it's Bruce Wayne. It's Bruce Wayne. Remember Batman? That was the only part I rolled my eyes.
Meanwhile, we go down into the sewers, see Penguin.
Exactly.
Oh my god, that was hilarious. It's Joaquin Phoenix playing all of them.
Yeah.
He's put on loads of weight to DeVito again.
It's Danny DeVito now.
A cast member that we had seen in our most popular review so far for Hotel Artemis. Did you notice any actors from Hotel Artemis in this film?
There is.
Jodie Foster.
That's right. Remember, as Joaquin Phoenix's mother.
Was Jeff Goldblum playing Robert De Niro?
Was it a houseplant in scene 5?
Who else was even in Hotel Artemis?
It's a one scene role, but it's quite a big part in that role.
The administrative office?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Who is he? He was in Hotel Artemis.
That's right, Brian Tyree Henry.
Right.
We singled him out as being particularly good in Hotel Artemis, and he was in, and he played the.
Thanks
the
to
ally.
Oh,
us.
he's the brother, isn't he?
He's the brother, yeah.
Yes.
Thanks to us
Yeah.
and our singling,
He's on the rise.
he's on the rise.
He's one
And
of those
recently, he was
actors-
also in Widows. And,
Yes, I saw him in
If
that,
Beale
yeah.
Street Could Talk. So clearly,
Because I saw him
some pretty big movies for Brian Tyree Henry.
He's one of those actors. He's one of those character actors that I remember when he was in Joker, just thinking, "Who the hell? I know that guy."
Yeah, you do.
He was
Yeah,
great in
good-
that.
good
It's the moment where he starts to realise, wait a minute, this guy's not got it together, and I'm about to give him official documents, and it could be my job, and I'm just like this lowly admin
Yeah.
guy.
But you want him to get the
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
That's you're right. What
This
you were
is
saying
the-
earlier, the kind of the pushing
pushing-
away with one hand and the pulling
It's the
towards you
weird
and the other.
schism of this film, where it wants you to side with someone that you don't want to side with. It's something where I think someone with much better writer than Todd Phillips could take that dichotomy and they could do something really interesting with it.
Oh, I think you're being mean on Todd Phillips. I thought.
Did you hear that,
everything
Todd
he'd done
Phillips?
You're
I'm
always,
coming for you,
always
Todd
you.
Phillips.
It's always
I'm
you.
coming for you,
I thought
Todd
it's really well
Phillips.
Put
done.
him on the list with Raw Rafale.
Raw footage.
Raw footage. And do you know who was signed up to play Thomas Wayne until the day before shooting? And it's literally the most predictable choice you could possibly have, to the point where when I saw this person, I was like, oh, it's discount.
Gene Hackman.
No,
Wait,
too
discount? You're going to reveal the discount?
No, that's why I'm wondering if you can,
Oh, is,
if you can guess.
he a discount? As in, is the actor in a discount version of somebody
Who
else?
often plays a rich, haughty arsehole?
Oh, Hollywood.
I was going to say something like Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin.
Oh shit,
Yes.
he does. And
He was
looks
signed
like
up
him as
until
well.
the day before. Yeah, I know. It's
He
almost
does.
like they just got someone who kind of looks like Alec Baldwin. Way too on the
Yeah.
nose, isn't it? That would be really. That's really
That would
bad.
be funny, actually.
That would have
I
been fun.
mean,
Yeah,
I-
actually,
I
I think
think-
that's a bad choice because I
Yeah.
agree, it would have injected too much comedy.
Yeah,
into
I think
that.
they missed out on that.
Well,
but they also
It might be
they,
more empathisable, though, because he needs acting of it. That's the thing.
Yeah, he was. But I think that was intentional. They wanted to do. The thing about this film is they had to force you to empathise with the Joker. Through every single beat had to be, you are going to empathise with him because as soon as you lose empathy, this film can't work at all. So they had to make every character.
Well, apart from
giant
Luke, where he
arseholes.
strangles his mum, he suffocates his mum.
Yeah, but if that happened at the beginning, you wouldn't have been for it.
Cold
would you?
open.
No,
Anyway.
but do you not empathise with him in that moment? I know I did.
What in the
When he strangles his mother.
Oh, the toilet. Oh, I see.
I empathised with him in that
No,
moment. I don't sympathise. I
I
don't
kind
condone.
of switched
but-
off. I mean, I kind of felt, as I said before, it's a scene where it doesn't let you off the hook, and it doesn't end quickly. So you kind of have to live with the consequences of being with him and having empathised with him up until that point. But I don't think I actually
It lost your
empathised with
empathy,
him while he's doing it.
But someone else who turned down the role of Thomas Wayne, and who I think would have been a really good choice, and this is a bit of a shame, was Viggo Mortensen. He would have injected a bit more into that role, I think.
Yeah, he's
that
much
would have
more
been
like-
really
'cause he's more
interesting.
likeable.
But he turned it down, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
It's interesting because he is more likeable, but I wonder how much of it needs a one-dimensional Thomas Wayne who's just this horrible
I disagree. I
bastard.
think he actually needed to be
Bit
a
more
little
of a
bit more
character.
likeable.
Yeah, I think
like
so
you
as
think
well.
like, oh, he's so prim and proper, and you want to side with Thomas Wayne in that situation that it's even more evil that he is hiding something.
But
he's
would that
just
create a
slime.
larger gap with how you feel about the Joker?
No, because
Is that
hopefully
the
by
thing?
that point you would believe that he was pulling a fast one. But the public persona is, oh, of course everyone likes Thomas Wayne because look at him, he's charismatic. But in
Yeah.
this, he doesn't really feel.
No,
Do you know, I
he's-
agree
he's
with
a
you. Do you know
real-
what I mean?
he
Do you know,
comes
I'm
across
gonna-
like
you
Alec
changed my
Baldwin.
mind. You've convinced me, Rob. Not only do I agree with you now, I think it would have been a much better written film if it were for that regard, because it would have made that grey dichotomy more interesting.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, to sum it up the way I would say it, I mean, like, it's better to populate your film with real characters, like, than with these cardboard cutouts. And I thought Thomas Wayne was the weak character in this, who came across as just a cardboard cutout. Like, he's the fat, wealthy man who is a bit of a jerk. Like,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, he's Alec Baldwin, basically, and yeah, check it out.
Tom Hanks, for example,
It would have been an interesting choice,
something
yeah.
like that,
Yeah, I
where
agree.
you think, you know, you
I
only
don't think
see
Tom
the
Hanks would
good
do
side
that
of
because I think
No,
it
wouldn't,
breaks his
wouldn't.
brand.
I don't know, he played Walt Disney.
Hey, hey yo.
Walt Disney's a massive anti-Semite.
Well, that's fair.
Makes
What are we
sense.
expecting for people dressing up as clowns and rioting in the streets?
Because people have talked about people have brought up in the context of this film, which I think is really stupid, the Aurora shooting.
What the Dark Knight
which was
Rises
during the Dark
one?
Knight Rises. So why on earth would you?
It just gives them an idea. This is the problem I have. From what I could gather, that it seemed to be one of these situations where there isn't much of a furore over it. There's no outcry, but then you've got this created outcry by people assuming there was one and then getting annoyed about that, and then that then fuels the opposite argument.
Yeah,
well, if you're gonna be like that, you lefty libs, I'm gonna put on a mask and go out there.
It was well woke.
I think it's just a massive stretch.
It's a little silly,
ridiculous.
isn't it?
I mean, surely the Dark Knight is more. If there was a film that glamorized that perspective, surely it's Ledger's Joker. Not
on those like those more alt-right communities, they started using the Joker from those films, from Heath Ledger's Joker, as a figure that they were inspired by.
Yeah.
So coming back to that, well, I guess I can't say I agree with this, but the argument would be you're now taking a figure.
Could say that you disagree.
The argument is, therefore,
I disagree. No, I'm
never make any more Joker properties because these people can always go back to that well.
Not if the Joker you've got is a product of a society that fails them and therefore they're going to ship a school. This is the thing. You can have a Joker movie where he's already the Joker, but if you start... so I don't want to use the word excusing his actions because I don't think that's true, but if you start creating a film where you empathise with his actions...
It doesn't excuse the actions. I mean, we already have... There are so many films that basically chart the rise of that German generation. Like, recently, The White Ribbon. Nobody's saying The White Ribbon should be outlawed because it condones Nazism. I mean, it doesn't condone Nazism. It tries to, in a sort of fable way... give some kind of justification for why it might have happened.
By empathising with it, if people were to be inspired by that in the future, they've now got an empathisable figure that they can be drawn to, and therefore they would feel it's more justified what they're doing, rather than this like two-dimensional hate figure.
I mean, but people need an avatar, is that what you're saying?
I think in this generation, why would they latched onto the Joker originally, didn't they? In
that case, you can't stop people from doing that, and maybe they will have their own reasons to... Regardless, it will be if it isn't the Joker, they'll find somebody else.
Yeah,
and in that case, it's unfair to go back. And you agree with this, I'm sure. Go back and point the finger at Tom Phillips and say you are responsible for.
As I don't agree with this at all because I don't think art should be censored, and I think people are making a big furore about nothing.
Gangster film. This is why we had the Hays Code back in the day. It was the idea that people are so sort of easily corruptible that we can't show a Tommy gun on screen, or any form of gambling,
Well, I mean, when it comes to like glamorizing violence, I mean, Peaky Blinders is so popular, and that is like super slow-mo shots of rich gangsters who always get away with it, walking down the street and then killing people. I mean, that is surely much more irresponsible and reprehensible than anything in this film.
I haven't seen
Nobody's saying Peaky Blinders should be sent.
I haven't seen it, but would you say you empathise with the people in Peaky Blinders?
Well, because it's so uncharacter-driven. I mean, I have my problems with Peaky Blinders, but I'm not kidding. Like, in every single episode of Peaky Blinders, there'll be a bit where they sort of slow-mo walk down the street with their cigarettes and their long coats just before they like beat the shit out of someone and like burn down a pub.
That sounds rubbish.
It is really...
It's something that would annoy me.
That definitely glamorises the violence and the violent way of life.
What about the bleakness of EastEnders? Look at EastEnders. People love EastEnders, and it's just wall to wall. Life is shit.
I guess the difference is with EastEnders, it's so... Even though Neighbours is the greatest...
let's move on.
Whether it's intentional or not, it's certainly, you come away with it thinking like, God, that's stupid. Joker has enough of it well executed for one not to think, oh, well, that was stupid. You're thinking, that was grim.
That's what I mean. People like wallowing in it, and they also like following serial killers.
Yes, there's such a big trend for that at the moment. Netflix is
Hannibal,
the serial killer channel at the moment.
Real ones and fictional ones. And
that's true.
And does that mean that these people are all going to go out and commit crimes?
I agree. Like, surely Hannibal Lecter again is a much more irresponsible character to create. Like, he's a much more like.
And he's charismatic.
He's
as well.
suave.
Exactly,
he's intelligent. I mean, this guy is mentally disturbed, poor. He lives with his mother. Like. There's nothing to sort of look at this character and be like, oh yeah, that's how I want to live my life.
I suppose Hannibal Lecter isn't the protagonist in Silence of the Lambs, so maybe that's why.
But he is in the Hannibal show.
And he turns into it. He really becomes the protagonist.
Yeah.
And people do really ship him, don't they, on Tumblr?
That's
and
right.
So
they ship the
with Joker, obviously. Those two can go together. And create lots of crimes.
Somebody just poke out my mind's eye for a second.
But despite the references and so on, which we felt a little flat sometimes.
Should have done a reference to Road Trip. I would have been up for that.
There probably is one hidden in there somewhere.
There might be. I really like this film. I thought it was great.
I thought it works as a whole and scene by scene. I found it really entertaining and
it's not a mass-produced thing. It even sounds like I mean, you've got the script there, or you were reading the script, but I read that he was also sort of rewriting it as he went along.
It was rewritten
I
on
heard
set.
Or so it's that
it was
kind of
rewritten on set.
70s, early 80s sort of attitude as well, that you can just, like Apocalypse Now style, just make it up as you go along.
My big problem is I value originality in filmmaking probably more than anything else when I see it, and that always clouds my opinions of film, where it can be the most perfectly executed piece of film out there, but if it is a shallow copy or at best a homage of something else, I'm going to be docking points, because I feel like I want something slightly original. I want something from a person's voice. I want to feel the art in the art, even if it's highly commercial. I mean, there's a lot of the Marvel films that are so homogenous and commercialized, but there's sometimes you can be watching one and I'll be thinking, like, I can see the voice behind this, and that automatically just makes me feel better about the film. It feels more like a unique thing, rather than I like this filmmaker, see how much I like him. And that, and as much as take the piss out of Road Trip just now, but it certainly feels like that is his voice.
Well, and also his voice seems to be twinned with his director of photography, who did all the Hangover films.
Oh, did he?
Lawrence Sher.
He's got good range.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is that sometimes it seems to rely a lot on that kind of shallow depth of field, but they're kind of going for that 70s feel. Minor quibbles. Yeah, I found a lot of it really refreshing, the way it's put together.
Yeah.
I just
really great.
For a comic
Really
book movie,
enjoyed it.
it was a
Yeah.
bloody breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I think it's the best film we've reviewed so far.
Well, I guess it's that part of the show where we do things. Isn't that right?
That's right. It's time to tag that flick.
Tag your flick.
In space, no one can hear you scream. The brother of the director of Ghost.
Be afraid. Be very.
Whoever wins, we lose.
Tag your flick.
Tag your flick.
Mike, why don't you go first for once?
All right then. This one I kind of had. I feel like the tagline to this film should be just the number for a charity to promote mental health in America.
Whoa!
But I think the tagline that I would actually put on this film is "Nobody knows what it's like to be the sad guy."
Nice.
I like that.
Who deep cut there?
If the Who would allow us.
Or
very
Limp
good.
Bizkit.
Go on, tell us your tag.
No.
Line.
You tell us your tag.
Okay. Comedy equals tragedy plus crime.
That's definitely a tag you would come up with.
Did you get it?
No.
Oh.
There's
Is it another
a
Trainspotting
classic
reference?
truism, an epithet, I don't know, an aphorism or whatever that is. Comedy equals tragedy plus time.
Okay.
Too clever for me.
I've changed
God,
the word
yeah.
time to crime.
So I
That's-
chose a
oh my
music
God.
reference because I knew you'd get it. And you've done something clever and it went.
That's
both of
really
our
clever.
heads.
I'm appalled that I didn't. That's brilliant, Rob. Yeah, again, you've come up with one, and I'm amazed.
Clearly,
I love it.
PR is not where I belong though,
Wow.
because no one gets it.
It's a pun as well.
Well, no, there's a niche for your
I mean,
brilliance.
you're not
Rob,
exactly
but
Don
it's not
Draper,
us.
but see, you got it. You got
Some people would get it.
There you go.
I reckon it's a small.
it's for the
number.
1%.
It's for the 1%.
Ironically.
And Jules.
Right, quite a simple one. This one. The most miserable comedy since The Hangover.
Ooh.
Shots
You're
fired.
so
Tom Phillips, he's going for you.
Oh my god.
Shots fired.
Are we going to get through an episode without you openly calling out the director?
And he wants to work in movies.
Which bridges aren't burning yet? Time for oh no!
Oh, do you want to know the real tagline for the film?
Go on.
It's quite simply, put on a happy face.
Yeah, I
Something like
think it'd be something like that. Yeah.
Have a I haven't got anything.
No, it's put on a happy face.
Put on a happy face.
It's put on a happy face, Jules.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking things along the lines of, if life gives you lemons or something, or turn
Nice.
The
that, turn
joke's
that
on you.
clown upside down. Who's laughing now, or something? I thought it was going to be something like that. Yeah.
Whose crime is it anyway?
Who turn that clown upside down? The last shots of the Joker in the Dark Knight, he is upside down. So
That would be good.
turn
Yeah.
that clown upside down. And it's Thomas Wayne's wife's due date because here's Bruce Wayne. Don't forget this is Batman.
Also,
Don't
Bruce
forget
in
about
that
Batman.
film, like
Little
he's,
shit.
he's,
I did
he's,
like how
he's very he hasn't been given the stranger danger talk, has he? Really,
Very,
Bruce?
very passive. He doesn't seem like he's going to turn into it. Even when Alfred is like being choked at the gate, Bruce is just standing there. He's like,
Is this a?
Alfred just basically stuck his fingers in his mouth.
that's right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Does anyone think that it was a reference that the idea that the child Bruce Wayne goes down a pole in order to meet the Joker. Because he slides down the pole in his little playpen thingy outside.
Nice. Well, like in the original TV series.
As in like in the
see what you
60s.
mean.
The bat pole.
Yeah, sure, got you.
Is
Maybe.
it the bat pole? Not the Christopher Nolan bat pole.
Turbines
but,
the power, batteries the speed.
Yes. That's actually, if they had cast Cesar Romero as the Joker in this, that would have been a
now
very...
you can guess.
Including painting over his moustache because he refused to shave it.
The only thing I know about Cesar Romero. Cool, and now it's time to see to ask the question that's on everyone's lips.
Where do we go from here?
So where will we go from here? Where do we go from here, Mike? Where do you think we should go from here? Where does the Joker lead us?
With Nixon impeached, there's massive outrage, and populism puts Joker in the White House.
Oh my god!
And so you have Joker as president.
Jesus Christ! It's Joker Trump.
Joker Trump, yeah, exactly.
Cool.
I feel like I definitely don't want Batman. Like, as you might have guessed, I didn't really like their attempts to wedge Batman into this. So I don't want the Waynes don't need to be in this at all anymore. We don't need Batman. But I do think you could introduce another Batman villain. And I was almost thinking of having, instead of Joker being the president, Joker in a presidential race with Penguin on the other side.
I like that.
It's like
Campaign
a rich,
trial.
aristocratic
That's
sort
great.
of...
That's amazing.
He's the 1% villain. So you've got... And then maybe the Riddler, because I just think it'd be quite fun to have the Riddler in that film as well.
Yeah.
So you've got Joker and Riddler and Penguin.
A triple villain
in a
feast.
But in a presidential race with a background
Have we
of
learnt
populist
nothing?
outrage.
Would the tagline be, here's the trump card?
Ooh.
No.
Could be.
What's up with your idea? Joker's the lead. So
Yeah.
it does create, again, that strange, we side with him because he's against bigger, more gigantic arseholes.
I
And
feel
that's
like
a fair sequel as well,
Actually-
because then, rather than just a continuation of Batman, as you say.
Yeah,
I
because
feel like the difficulty, but the thing that you have to maintain, I think, is like is the passivity that he plays within the wider context. He doesn't. He might incite and become a symbol for the riots, but he doesn't. He's not doing it deliberately. And I think if you lose that, then you lose a lot from this character. You can't have him being like really forceful and like pushing for an agenda.
He can't
I
ride
think
on the waves of populism. He's just got to sort of like lay back.
he does. He rides it. He gets carried along by it. I think. We'll see. What do you
Well,
have,
anyway.
Rob?
So, Rob, what is your idea for a sequel?
Okay. Well, after escaping from Arkham Asylum with a little help from his Jokerettes, Joker goes into hiding and forms his own comedy club with a twist. People, often figures of authority, are pulled off the street and slung on stage. Joker watches from the shadows. If the act doesn't make him laugh, they are killed. Since clues seem to point at the film being set in 1981, a computer programmer is dragged on stage. His answer to what he does for a living is, I'm working on a mouse! Arthur finds this amusing and decides to use his skills to trick Wall Street and make him a millionaire.
Ooh.
Oh, irony of ironies, he is now the 1%. A cruel joke which is not lost on him. Meanwhile, a teenage Bruce Wayne schedules a meeting with Joker, who is trying to make money on his own as a kind of rebellion, eschewing his trust fund. Joker takes him under his wing and it's basically some sort of Wall Street rip-off with more murder.
Interesting.
Sounds
there's
like Wall Street nowadays.
There's a similar, the Trump element, I suppose, in
Yeah.
different guises.
Well, this is the thing. The 1% thing in the film was a direct reflection of today's current society, which is a direct reflection of Trump. It's not surprising that you guys went to a similar well. I mean, they bring him in off the streets. They bring rich people off the streets, and if they don't...
They don't make him laugh.
They don't make him laugh. He kills them.
Then they have
that
them
feels like the
shot
sort of thing that
or
would have
something.
happened in Suicide Squad. In fact, did that happen? I can't remember.
I like if Batman is going to be in it. I quite like him sort of in a rejecting the homestead sort of
Classic. Yeah.
phase, and like going down taking a few steps down a path that's ultimately rejected. That would be interesting.
Because you could lay some more sort of character seeds for him eventually becoming Batman, but do it just shy enough that it's like is not the focus at all of the film.
Yeah.
And the idea that the Joker, who is obviously 100% against the 1%, accidentally finds himself in a situation where the only way to survive is be the 1%.
But he'd kind of embrace it as a kind of cruel joke. I think at this point he would just assume everything is part of some sort of grand sort of comic.
Has his character complete? I mean, in both of your films,
Situation.
would you guys say that Joker is the Joker that we know now, or is he like? Does he sit in this sort of not yet the Joker, but he's still on his way to arcing to become the Joker that we know from.
Well, for me, it would still be the way Joaquin Phoenix has done it. So there's still a lot of, there's still a genuine struggle and with mental illness, I think.
Yeah, I think whatever he does is purely, it's just kind of a Prometheus style. I'm going to do it because just to show how much of a sham it is. Like he would probably get all the money and then like sort of something like out of the original Batman and throw it out of a balloon or something, whatever, or have it shred it,
or set it on fire like in Dark Knight.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm only burning my half.
Great ideas, guys.
Thanks.
I will happily watch these films when they inevitably come out.
Woohoo!
All right, who's ready for a quiz?
Me!
Right, okay. Well, I don't know if you guys are aware, but we watched this film and it was called Joker.
Oh crap, I haven't revised.
Right. Are you ready for a quiz, though?
All right, roll.
That is about the film Joker.
Oh, thank God.
But I revised all about Maverick, the disappointing Dick Donner film.
You should have watched the less disappointing Dick Donner.
Donner.
Yeah, Dickie Donner.
Oh, Richard Donner. Yeah, I remember that. That had Jodie Foster in it. There we go. There's a Jodie Foster.
We're back.
We got it. Hotel Artemis.
I heard she was in Joker as his mother.
That's right.
Question one.
Question one.
In Jodie Foster as
In
the
Jodie
Joker-
Foster.
In Jodie Foster.
Proper quiz.
Question
about
one.
Neighbours.
As we... Oh, I can make it about neighbours if you want. I can do that on the fly. As we were all...
Was Jodie Foster in The Fly?
But Jeff Goldblum was.
Oh, his ass was again.
Question one. As we're all well aware, many things can change in a movie from script to screen. And as you guys know from earlier on, I was looking at the script. But that is because I was thinking up questions for the quiz.
Oh, nice.
Joker is no exception to things that can change from script to screen. I have an April 2018 draft of the shooting script here. Okay. Can you tell me which of these three things I'm about to read you actually is something that was in that 2018 draft that didn't make it into the film?
All right, go on.
And which of the other two? Totally fabrications. Right. Number one. Arthur gets people to call him Joker very early on in the script. Page 17. He's with his fellow clown co-workers, Randall, that's the big guy, and Gary, that's the dwarf. When Randall, the big guy, half mockingly, half friendly, says to Gary, the dwarf, to check out this Joker here, Arthur likes it and asks them in earnest for them to call him Joker. It's weird. Randall agrees to get him to stop creeping them out. However, Arthur's happiness is turned on its head when in the hospital watching the TV, he sees his hero, Murray Franklin, it's Bobby De Niro, call him this Joker when showing the clip with no intent but to laugh at him. So, calls him Joker earlier on, and therefore that moment has a bit more going for it.
It strikes me as being a really cringe-worthy moment, which could well belong in the film, but it seems a little
It's page 17,
amateurish
so it's
as
about...
well. Like if it's done wrong, it seems like you're drawing attention to the name of the character immediately.
Yeah, I guess that could be quite cringe.
Number two. In what I assume must be a very overt reference to Taxi Driver, Arthur frequents porno theatres in the script. At one point, he sees a couple in the seat in front very obviously engaging in some sexy sex times, or at least from his perspective anyway, and it blocks his view of the screen. Finding it very awkward, but not wanting to make a big deal about it, Arthur does his awkward laugh, the script making a point that we don't know if he's doing it intentionally or not. They get up and leave, whilst Arthur tries to hand them his laughter medical condition card. Number two.
Right.
Okay, number three. In the script, Joker's interactions with his neighbour aren't delusions. She talks to him about how hard it is being a single mother, and they share in their hatred for the rich, specifically Thomas Wayne. After losing her job, Arthur comforts his neighbour and gets it into his head that they're dating, even though the script makes it obvious that she's only pitying him. This culminates in him barging into her apartment to find her having sex with her actual real and very hunky boyfriend on the couch. Arthur leaves, and she later confronts him, making it clear to him that they're just friends. In the scene description, the script makes it very clear that this is the definite point that pushes him over the edge.
And in his mind, it could be that she's cheating on him. So that could work in that respect.
Those are the three. So we have...
But I think you're right. It's like, you don't... It's just too early to be saying like, oh, by the way, it's remember Joker. And there are a lot of interactions with colleagues. Like, I don't think that... No, my feeling is...
number three.
Yeah, I'm agreed with you, but let's go with number three.
You want number three? Correct!
Yes!
That was... Originally, the film was Incel-ageddon.
Oh god, yeah, that would be... They would have got more shit for that. That's true.
How much... it's quite overt about the idea that because this woman that he shows all this affection for doesn't feel any affection for him. She's the one to blame. Right, question 2. According to Todd Phillips, the joke, when I was a little boy and told people I was going to be a comedian, everyone laughed. Well, no one's laughing now, is inspired by which late British comedian? A. Bob Monkhouse, B. Ken Dodd, or C. Ronnie Corbett?
I know this.
Yeah, I know.
It's Bob Monkhouse.
It's Bob Monkhouse,
Yeah.
Question 3. The final question. The following 4 things I'm about to read are genuine reviews for the Joker online. Or should I say, 3 of them are genuine. One of them, not so much. Can you guess
So
which
there are
one is
4?
made up? I'm going to read 4 things. One of them I've made up.
Right.
The other 3 are genuine reviews for the Joker.
Genuine.
Or Joker, whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
it's
Online.
Joker.
All right. Here's the first one. This movie is fucking deep. We can talk about mental illness and society rank, or talk about how Joker didn't really murder those Wall Street guys. To me, 2/3 of them are just out for self-defense. What's also crazy is Joker had the opportunity to be a hero. The woman even looks at the clown for help, and he chooses not to. We can also talk about what really happened and what's a part of his imagination. There's so many things to talk about with this movie. I feel like it's going to be one of those movies that we're breaking down and talking about for years. People shit on WB for other projects, but they did good on this one. More of this, please.
That's real.
That's surely Peter Bradshaw.
Okay, here we go. Number 2. It's a short one, this one. This is in quotes.
Uh-huh.
As kids, we love the heroes. As adults, we understand the villains.
Oh, that's deep.
That's real.
Here's number 3. Holy, and I mean this in the most genuine way possible, shit. I was going to leave it at that, but I just can't, lol. I got to keep going, wow, fuck. Also, I'm totally about just to say what everyone already knows, but fuck it. Yeah, as pretentious as this is about to sound, this isn't even a film. It is, but it's not using filmmaking in a way that tells any particular story. It miraculously all works together so tightly to convey these emotions as a way of, more importantly, getting across certain philosophical ideologies. This film just had me doing a lot of thinking. It's really not a perfect film, but it's easily one of those that still qualifies as a masterpiece in my book. It's a film that will live on for decades and remain one of the most important and exciting pieces of art I've ever experienced.
You need to get off Reddit.
Number 3.
Okay.
These are all from different sources, I should add.
Okay.
Like different websites. Right. And here's number 4. Oops, my mistake. Started watching this movie thinking it was a documentary about the man running the country. A truly stupid Joker. Walked out immediately. Good excuse for popcorn, though. Bernie 2020. Peace. So we've got...
Hold on.
3 of these are real. One of them's made up.
Is this
Right.
a trick question because 3 of them are made up and one of them is real?
First one is this movie is fucking deep. Second one is as kids we love the heroes.
Yeah, that seems
Third
real.
one is holy, and I mean this in the genuinest way possible
That
shit.
feels like Jules'
I know,
And
but is
voice.
it 2? Did he find that one? He was like, yes,
Yeah.
they're going to pick that one.
Yeah.
The 4th one is
'Cause I agree.
Bernie 2020.
I agree that the 3rd one seems most
But then,
obviously...
but the last one is ridiculous. Like, what did you thought it was going to be a documentary, Bernie 2020? I mean,
Peace.
but then that could be a letterboxed review, which are, I mean, they're kind of short and sweet and mad often.
Some of them are not sure.
I mean, almost all of them are satires of themselves, so...
I think some of them are taking themselves seriously.
Yeah. No, I agree, but they are themselves
Unknowingly
satires
parodies.
of themselves.
Wow. Is that something that Jules would say as well? The
Wow.
bit.
Are you referring to, I just
think
can't
he
keep
read
going,
it-
wow,
he read
fuck.
it most like he would read out a fake Jules thing.
I feel like if I don't go with that, I'll be upset.
I'm going to deviate.
You
Okay.
went against
I'm
four.
going to deviate. I'm going to say I think it's number 2. I think 2's
What
the one he wrote.
What
made
the
up.
adult?
As kids we love the heroes, as adults we
we-
understand the villains.
I'm going to say that that's
Oh, actually,
the one that's made up.
actually, read it wrong. Villians.
Villians. Okay.
Villians.
Well, now you're making me think that isn't.
No, you're
the
making me
one.
think that it is.
Oh. So I think that's the one. I think that's
Oh,
the red herring.
sugar.
there.
See, now I feel like that is it because millions.
That's mean. I think it's number 2.
I'm gonna go with 3.
So you splitting the vote? Or you?
We're
We're
split.
both wrong, aren't we?
So what do you say? You're saying...
I'm saying number 2.
You're saying number 2 and you're saying number 3.
Mm.
Well, I'm going to tell you that number 1 was a genuine review by J.K. de Blum on Reddit. Number 2 was a genuine review by Gubbermans on YouTube.
Oh no, it's gonna be 4, isn't it?
Number 3 was Karsten Rundquist's review of Tree of Life on Letterboxd.
I thought,
So you got it. You got it, Rob. And number 4, which you guessed was fake, was half-star review by
Wait, what?
Wine on Letterboxd.
He said number 3.
You said number 3, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're right.
But wait, what did you
Didn't
just
you
say it was
say
someone
number
from
4 was the one that was
Letterboxd?
made up?
No, I'm saying, yeah, no. One of them's made up. I didn't. Yeah, it's made up. It's not from the Joker. It was a review of Tree of Life.
Oh, so
I
right.
see.
So it's still a real review.
It's a real review. I didn't actually write any of those.
Very good.
Nice one.
Well done, Rob. You are
There you go.
reigning champion of the quiz.
And
But
but,
I
yeah.
thought I was trying to work out Julian's voice, and none of them were. So we were
No,
all tied
none of
into
them were.
nothing, weren't we?
No, that was Carsten Rundquist's review for Tree of Life. Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life.
I was thinking, is that your new persona?
Carsten Runquist.
And yes, the Bernie 2020 was by the user Wine on Letterboxd, who rated it half a star.
There you go.
Quiz crown to Mr. Rob.
I think we can put an end to these podcasts now.
We finally have a champion.
Okay.
Shall we rummage around the the mail bag and see if we can select a delectable treat for us all to listen to? Rob, have you been on mail duty this month? Have we had any interesting correspondence?
Rob, why didn't you empty your sack for the rest of us to see?
Dear Once Upon, my lifelong love of cinema has drawn me to the inevitable discovery of what you call a podcast. I'm not sure what it is, perhaps a roller coaster of pretension, but it's not a real podcast from where I'm standing. I mean, for starters, you need an audience. Having said all that, I do appreciate the fact that you seem to have finally tired of reviewing superhero films and have thankfully moved on to the true cinema of supervillain films. But hey, what do I know? Maybe I'm just a dinosaur of celluloid. Maybe it's time for me to stop making films. You know, I'll tell you what, that's me taking no for an answer. It's them selling me, not the other way around. It's me being a hypocrite, that's what that is. So, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving! The show goes on! This is my cinema! They're gonna need a fucking wrecking ball to take me out of here! The rest is a kind of unintelligible scrawl, can't make it out, something about gangsters, la la la. Yada yada yada, lots of love, Marty.
Ah,
So, yeah,
Jesus.
thanks Marty, we love you too.
He's quite old. I'm
well
surprised
done
he's an
for
insult.
preempting the fact that we're going to review Joker. Thanks very much,
Yeah.
Martin.
Wow. I liked how he'd clearly also seen Wolf on Wall Street. Oh wait, he directed that. I think he's the first director we've suggested on the show that I'm not going to I'm coming for you.
No, but I mean, in
I'm coming
real
for you to
life,
hug you.
in real life, he said that he considers Marvel movies merely a roller coaster and not cinema.
Yeah, I can
Yeah, he's right.
Strange that he had prior knowledge of the film we were about to review.
Personally, I think
strange.
it's fake because it didn't reference Encino Man.
That is a giveaway, isn't it?
So last time, it wasn't really last week, 'cause it was actually a couple of months ago.
Right.
Last time, Jules brought a gardening book to replace the Necronomicon
I did.
and selected a word from it which could easily have come from any page of the Necronomicon, which was the word creeping.
Yeah.
And now we're going to tell you all of you out there, the film,
All one person.
All of you.
the film that made us think about.
Because I'm sure you all really want to know what us three think about the word creeping. It's gonna... Can't wait to see what place that puts you in.
The Gary Glitter autobiography.
Jules, why don't you start us off?
Let the noncery begin.
Yeah.
That's a
Not from
tagline
me.
for Joker, wasn't it?
A few weeks ago, I rewatched a movie that I hadn't seen in a long time, but is one of my favourite films. And I rewatched it for the reason of thinking about this word, and I wasn't entirely sure, but the movie I watched was American Beauty.
Oh.
And it's the first... I've been putting it off because after everything that happened with Kevin Spacey, the first time I watched this, obviously, well, a million times I watched this, you empathise with Kevin Spacey's character. He's a man going through a midlife crisis. And, you know, I love the film. But then rewatching it with knowing, well, with everything that's come out about him and his new persona and the fact that he's just like this sort of quite justly hated figure now for the crimes he's done. The movie took on this very weird thing where you start to realise just how much of Kevin Spacey's roles are based on being a creepy weirdo and how much of there is in that performance that you then wonder maybe that isn't great acting. Maybe that is someone with something more below the surface. And because the film's so well written, it really does a great job of making you empathise with him. That I was caught, much like Joker, in this weird schism between feeling, oh, I really empathise with his character. I want him to succeed. Oh, yeah, he's got a 16-year-old girl that's checking him out. You know, I don't agree with him, but good for him. His marriage is terrible. And then the weird side of, oh, God, it's Kevin Spacey. It's this kind of creepy. Is there like another level to this now when he was going into the film? and it weirdly enough, it made me sort of enjoy it on another. It made me enjoy it artistically on another level because it was my favourite film of mine that now I'm seeing in a new light. I guess my question to you guys is: have you seen any? Been watching any Kevin Spacey films since that occurred, and has it coloured your opinions on it?
It would never. Film? I must admit, I will separate the man from the films. So, I'm not sure I have seen any since.
Because he wouldn't have been in anything new,
no,
so that's
not,
the question, isn't it?
I definitely watch American Beauty.
Yeah,
I like American Beauty.
I haven't, but I recently thought, I would like to see LA Confidential again. That won't stop me from going to see it again.
No, exactly.
But when
film.
I don't know, it's hard to because it's one of my favourite films. It made it harder to want to go back to that well. But I'm glad I did.
Follow that act.
Who's your nonce?
So, creeping could be about creeps or creepy crawlies. Lolita or Starship Troopers.
Oh.
But why not both? So I thought I'd throw a bone to old Cronenberg and go with Naked Lunch.
Oh, interesting choice. Interesting choice.
At first glance, it's about a man who works as a pest controller who gets high off his own supply. But it evolves into so much more. The screenplay was written by the director as an amalgam of both the original book and parts of the author William Burroughs' actual life. It's probably not worth detailing the whole plot since it twists and turns like a Lynchian Raymond Chandler story.
I don't think the film even knows what its plot is half the time.
Indeed. Yeah. With more body horror and even more paranoia. There is, however, a memorable sequence or two predicated on the idea that our protagonist, Bill Lee, played by Robocop himself, Peter Weller,
Leviathan,
has a sentient typewriter, which at one point eats another sentient typewriter. I do probably prefer some of his other films, such as The Fly or Crash, but it's definitely worth an exploration, and it's also a fine excuse to refer to the good book. I'm of course referring to the wondrous tome Cronenberg on Cronenberg, edited by Chris Rodley. I will now draw your attention to a quote by Old Davy Boy, which I think could have an apt relation to what we've been discussing with Joker. If you're following along at home, it's page 158. He was asked about the social responsibility of artists and creators. In response, he said the following: "As an artist, one is not a citizen of society. An artist is bound to explore every aspect of human experience. The darkest corners, not necessarily, but if that is where one is led, that's where one must go. You cannot worry about what the structure of your own particular segment of society considers bad behaviour, good exploration, bad exploration. So at the time you're being an artist, you're not a citizen. You don't have the social responsibility of a citizen. You have, in fact, no social responsibility whatsoever." You can draw your own conclusions as to whether that's a fitting truism or one big get-out-of-jail-free card, but
totally justified, 100 justified.
Either way, I thought it was interesting. You could also take this argument to defend William Burroughs' own novel, of which the film is adapted, which caused serious consternation and controversy at the time and was banned in Boston for 4 years. Of course, public opinion has since switched to venerating the novel. The original trailer is uniquely esoteric as it is narrated by Burroughs himself, who catalogues the sea change in attitude that has led to this moment. He says, 30 years later, Hollywood, in its infinite wisdom, has turned it into a movie.
30 feet tall, in living color. Cover your eyes, America. Run for your lives.
And the trailer ends with the words, "David Cronenberg and William Burroughs invite you to lunch."
I'll say random
Very
facts about
nice.
the book. One of the reasons why the movie is such a glorious, confusing mess is because I believe William Burroughs wrote the book, all the chapters separately, and then he threw them up in the air, like the first page of each chapter up in the air, and then he picked them up randomly, and then from where they landed, and that became the order of which the chapters would be in the book.
That's what David Bowie did with lyrics.
Kind of works a little easier for lyrics than
I know.
an entire novel, yeah.
That's true.
But it's a horrible, weird, batshit novel, and that Cronenberg's probably the only person capable of doing something like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he kind of didn't do a straight adaptation. It was kind of a combination of Burroughs the man and his character. But there are a lot of times in that book where Cronenberg is vindicating his own decision to sort of shock the audience. Because the age-old question, that Tarantino gets every time he sits in an interview chair.
Well, bloody Videodrome must have just, Cronenberg must have been facing it his entire career, and I know Videodrome, he got so much flack for that, for just how, brilliantly grotesque it is. But he is a man who must have been fighting that his entire career. Because even his films that are kind of not so horrible, like, the one with the Jeremy Irons where he plays the twins.
I was going to say Dead Ringers is really
Dead Ringers.
horrible.
Yeah.
But is it?
And that's not... Surely you would talk about something like History of Violence is him, isn't it? I mean, that's
Yeah,
pretty
History of Violence
straight.
is him.
Actually, with Dead Ringers, he
That's
mentions the fact that people have said, "Oh, it's increased misogyny or something as a result of the film," and he was saying, "Well, there was no. At what point do you know that's going to happen? You don't when you're making the film, and so unless some sort of God figure could come down and tell them exactly that this was going to happen, then he can't really listen to that kind of." That kind of criticism, especially at the script stage or whatever.
So going back to the Joker then,
Yeah.
you take this idea of the incel scene stuff that was taken out. Are we thinking, because Todd Phillips must have looked at that and thought, well, could this do something? Is this the reason they're taking it out? Is it
Or I
cultural
like to think
reasons?
it's just because he thought, it doesn't work for the film.
Yeah, I think that.
I
could
hope
be as
so.
Well. I think so.
There's always something a bit. I don't like the idea of artists not sitting in a vacuum. The idea that they're sitting there thinking, well, how will an audience respond to this? It's one thing changing your artistic vision if you think a producer's saying you won't get money if you do this, but it's another if you're thinking, I'm not sure if an audience will go mad and kill someone over this. So, Creeping. Mike, what film did you choose for The Creeping?
I chose a piece of classic cinema from 1965, Roman Polanski's Repulsion. And I didn't choose it because of Roman Polanski, although I understand that some
A second nonce. We've double nonced.
double nonce. So Repulsion was directed by Roman Polanski and stars Catherine Deneuve. It was Polanski's second feature film and possibly the film that cemented her growing reputation, I think. It's about the emotional trauma of a young French woman, Carol, living in London. She's confused and repelled by male sexuality. And when her sister, who Carol sort of clings to and hides behind as a shield against the outside world, leaves her alone in their apartment for a week, she descends into a nightmarishness, nervous breakdown. She loses her job as a beautician, a job that allows her to be surrounded by female company all day, and she stops leaving the apartment altogether. And at this point, madness begins to irrepressibly creep in on her. The apartment walls crack and contract. A skinned rabbit that her sister has left for her to cook gradually rots on the kitchen counter. And it's this slow decay in her mental state and embodied by the way she's perceiving the environment around her and the way the environment around her is literally rotting that brought this film to mind when the word creeping was chosen. It's that slow descent. There's some, and it's filmed, the way it's shot is there's something so organic about it. Like even the walls have this sort of slimy organic texture to them. Polanski films in this really incredibly claustrophobic way. I mean, obviously he subjects us to this growing madness. It is a deserved classic, but definitely an uncomfortable watch.
Nice.
That's Repulsion.
It's been on my watch list for a very long time. I was looking forward to it, but now I will avoid it. All the best bits. I guess that's a wrap for
That's
the...
a wrap.
Oh no,
Just
no, it isn't. We
consult
need a
the
book.
book.
Yes.
Oh, of course. Is the Necronomicon back, or are we back to? Are we
I will-
gardening
I'll-
again next week?
I will
next time?
just see if the Necronomicon is available. I told you we have to do this. There was another. You can only eat so many gardening books. I'm going to run out at one point. Okay, I think I've convinced him.
Can you coax him out?
Yeah, I can coax him out. Oh my god! So that was my leg. I shall now read from the book.
No! You must not read from the book!
Rob, I want you to tell me when to stop.
Stop!
Okay. Mike, tell me when to stop.
Never stop.
Stop. And the word is... Oh my god, it's a surname of a character.
All right, what is it?
Well, we can't use... The word is Doré. From the name Gustave Doré. I think... Let's try that again.
Finding Dory.
Finding Doré. Finding Gustave Doré. That'll be... That's our theme for next time.
Okay.
Okay. Stop. Fiend.
Ooh,
With a capital
it's another
F.
Fiend. All right,
Fiend will
so
do.
Fiend it is. The
Fiend.
Necronomicon. We asked, and the Necronomicon delivered us another nightmarishness, creeping, superstitious fiend.
Ooh, Rob, you chose Pickman's model.
Yeah, that's about all we've got time for. So thanks very much for listening once again. This has been Mike, Jules, and Rob in some guy's parents' house. That guy is me. It's my parents' house, and
Wait, what?
we
I
wish
thought
you.
it was my parents' house.
We
I thought it was my parents'
We've all
house.
just been living here in different wings of the house.
In fairness, I have fabricated the existence of both of your friendships.
Cue flashback of you talking to
What were we
yourself
talking
in
about?
multiple times.
Don't you mean fiendships?
Your own fiendships.
So yeah, thanks for listening, and see you next time.
Good night, everybody, and good podcasty days.
And remember to
Remember to put your gun to your head.
put
like
a smile
Tex
on
Driver.
your face.
Remember to copy King of Comedy.